I grip my water glass tighter, knuckles whitening as Marissa's phrases hang within the air between us. So subsequent week I'll be moving into your region, she says with an informal smile, as though saying she's switching to almond milk or taking on running, simply until I parent matters out. The champagne pops open beside me, my father beaming as he pours the effervescent liquid into crystal flutes I've never visible before. My mother's china, the set she saves for Thanksgiving, and Christmas gleams underneath the chandelier light. The desk arrangement must were my first clue, something become going on. Marissa seated at the pinnacle of the desk, the formal settings, the champagne chilling. This isn't Sunday dinner, it's an ambush. I've already began packing, Marissa maintains, accepting a flute from Dad with a gracious nod. It should not take greater than an afternoon to get the whole thing moved in. My dad and mom alternate thrilled glances throughout the desk, nodding along as though this is the most reasonable plan in the world. As if my consent is merely a formality, already given. To new beginnings, my father says, raising his glass. Everyone lifts theirs in reaction. Everyone except me. The garage bins make experience now. 3 days in the past I'd observed them, stacked against the wall, outsized plastic tubs categorized, Marissa's winter clothes and Marissa's books. When I texted her about them, she'd brushed it off. Just brief garage, she said, just until she observed greater area in her condominium. I must have recognized, just like I ought to have known what it meant after I confronted my parents about paying Marissa's lease for the 1-3 time this 12 months. She's going via a tough patch, Mom had said, waving away my worries. That's what own family does. We assist every other. I hear my mother's voice from closing week, the phone name I wasn't purported to overhear even as ready in her kitchen. Eden is so lonely in that massive residence, she'd told Aunt Sarah. She needs her sister's employer. It's best timing, genuinely. Perfect timing. As if my existence exists entirely to deal with Marissa's contemporary disaster. I set my water glass down carefully, accomplishing for my purse at the floor beside me. The trembling in my fingers has not anything to do with anxiousness and the whole thing to do with fury. Why do you appearance so extreme? Marissa laughs, her eyes darting in short to our parents. This is good information for both folks. You get company, and I get to keep on lease for some time. My palms close across the manila envelope I'd delivered, the only I'd almost left in the automobile, thinking this night wasn't the proper time. But there's no proper time with my family. There is best their time, their plans, their expectancies. The tremor in my palms steadies as I vicinity the envelope at the desk. Actually, I say, my voice calmer than I experience, I actually have information too. My parents' expressions shift immediately. My mom's smile falters, eyes narrowing slightly. My father lowers his champagne glass, brow creasing with concern. The exchange is subtle but unmistakable, the united front forming against the daughter who isn't always following the script. What form of information? My mom's tone consists of a caution. Don't break this. Don't be hard. I feel the weight of the acquainted labels soaring inside the air. Selfish, difficult, uncaring. The stakes of defiance are clear. Disagree and end up the own family villain. Again. Looking at their expectant faces, I comprehend this sample has defined my complete lifestyles. Marissa takes, I give. My dad and mom enforce the transaction. The roles never alternate. The traces never shift. Until now. I vicinity the manila envelope in the middle of the table, my arms lingering on the edge. The room falls silent, my circle of relatives' anticipation placing heavy within the air. What's that? My mother's voice includes a hint of infection, as if my interruption is derailing an already settled plan. This, I say, carefully taking flight the paper's interior, is the sale settlement for my house. I bought it last week. I have 30 days left earlier than I move. The silence that follows is absolute. Marissa's champagne glass slips from her, fingers shattering in opposition to the hardwood floor. No one actions to easy it up. My father's mouth opens and closes like a fish suddenly finding itself on dry land. You what? Marissa finally whispers. I flip through my telephone, pulling up the Pinterest board I observed this morning. Interesting timing, isn't always it? While you were planning to move in, Mom and Aunt Sarah were already designing your destiny. Bedroom in my house. I flip the display towards them, showing their meticulous board categorized Marissa's new room. My throat tightens as I watch recognition flash across their faces. 9 years of saving each viable penny, running extra time, sacrificing holidays and new clothes all to have the funds for that house, my dream home. And to them, it changed into just some other resource to be redirected to Marissa. My father stands unexpectedly, towering over me. "You can just cancel the sale," he says, waving his hand dismissively. "These matters have cooling-off periods." My mother rises too, resting her hand on his arm. "Eden, we already promised Marissa she may want to stay as long as she wished. You cannot probable anticipate her to find an area in 30 days. Actually, Aunt Sarah pipes up from the give-up of the table. We were going to move maximum of her matters next Tuesday, even as you have been at work, simply to make it less difficult for every person. The coordinated betrayal steals my breath." I look at Dorothy, my mother's oldest buddy, sitting uncomfortably beside Aunt Sarah. She stares fixedly at her plate, avoiding eye touch with all and sundry. "You can't do that," my father says, his voice hardening. "What about your property taxes coming due? You recognize I constantly help with the ones." The implied danger isn't diffused. His one annual contribution to my price range dangled now as leverage. "Eden," my mom says softly, her voice taking on the involved tone she makes use of while discussing risky people. "I'm concerned about you. This form of impulsive decision-making isn't like you. Are you feeling all right? Have you been taking care of yourself?" I understand the method straight away. If not compliant, then probably ill. It's a familiar direction in our family dynamic, one it's kept me in line for years. "You did this on cause," Marissa accuses, tears streaming down her face. "You located out. I wanted a place to stay and sold your home just to spite me." The accusation lands like a bodily blow. This is the way it constantly is going. My barriers, recast as cruelty, my self-renovation painted as selfishness. For a moment, I don't forget explaining the fact. The catastrophic roof alternative that tired my savings, the water line wreck, the heating gadget failure, the mounting monetary pressure that made promoting no longer just really useful, however vital. But what would be the factor? They've already forged me as the villain on this own family drama. Why give them greater ammunition? I made this decision for my very own reasons, I say as a substitute, maintaining my voice consistent. And its very last. "So you're just going to go away, your sister homeless?" My mom's voice rises. "After everything we have executed for you?" The acquainted weight of guilt settles on my shoulders. Everything they have done for me. The invisible ledger of own family duty that handiest ever seems to build up in a single direction. Marissa is not homeless. I factor out, she has a condominium, and if that does not work, she has your spare bedroom. That's no longer the factor, my father interjects. Family helps own family. Period. Anyone. The unspoken the rest of that sentence hangs inside the air, and you're now not being circle of relatives. I assume, I say cautiously, amassing the sale papers returned into the envelope, that we've extraordinary definitions of help. Under the table, I sense a mild squeeze on my hand. Dorothy, still heading off eye touch with all of us else, whispers so quietly I nearly pass over it. "Good for you." It's a small validation, but in this second, it feels enormous. One individual on this room does not see me as selfish or cruel for protecting myself. As I take a seat there with my family's accusations placing within the air, I wonder whether I have to provide an explanation for the financial struggles that forced me to promote my loved domestic, or really maintain firm without justifying my selection. Would sharing my vulnerability help them apprehend, or simply supply them new ammunition to use towards me? The first call comes Tuesday morning while I'm fixing my espresso. Aunt Sarah's call flashes on my phone display. Unusual. For a weekday earlier than 9. "Eden, honey, I simply talked on your mom." Her voice includes that specific tone, the only reserved for funerals and family scandals. "Is it real you offered your property simply to keep Marissa from staying with you?" My coffee sloshes over the rim of my mug, scalding my fingers. "What?" Marissa called me in tears final nighttime. "Stated you sold your lovely domestic out of spite, understanding she wanted an area to live." The burning on my hand fades as an extraordinary warmth rises in my chest. That's now not what came about. "Your sister may be homeless, Eden. I never thought you may be so cruel." The calls maintain all day. Uncle Robert, cousin Jennifer, even my father's golf friend, Chuck, whose connection to this example escapes me absolutely. Each verbal exchange follows the same script. Marissa's determined state of affairs, my obvious heartlessness, their profound unhappiness in me. While getting ready dinner, I make the mistake of checking Facebook. Marissa's present-day post seems on the pinnacle of my feed. The toughest lesson in existence is studying who honestly has your again when times get hard. Family ought to be all the time, not simply whilst it's convenient. 27 sympathetic comments follow, together with one from Mom. We're here for you, sweetheart. Always. The knife in my hand chops carrots with growing pressure. The very last blow comes Thursday, whilst my colleague Lisa stops by using my table, her expression pinched, with subject. I ran into your sister at Starbucks this morning, she says, decreasing her voice. She advised me about the resident's state of affairs. If you want help finding her brief housing, my church has a software. The carrot portions on my reducing board splinter below the blade. What precisely did Marissa tell you? Lisa shifts uncomfortably. Just that she's going through homelessness due to some unexpected decision you made. She seemed virtually disappointed. My jaw tightens so tough it aches. Thanks in your subject, Lisa. But Marissa is not homeless. She has a rental and parents, with a 4-bedroom residence. After Lisa leaves, I lock myself within the bathroom stall, hands trembling as I textual content my sister. Stop telling human beings I'm making you homeless. It's a lie and you realize it. Her response arrives right away. You're promoting the house I turned into counting on. What could you name it? The roof alternative got here first. $11,000. I hadn't budgeted for when the March storms found out leaks in 3 one-of-a-kind rooms. I emptied my vacation fund and took a small mortgage, telling myself it turned into a one-time emergency. Then the water line broke in April. $8,200 for emergency maintenance and panorama healing. I canceled plans to go to my college roommate in Arizona, picked up weekend advertising paintings for a nearby realtor, and ate ramen for dinner greater nights than I care to confess. The heating system failure in June turned into the final blow. $5,000 I surely did not have. Each night after work, I'd sit down at my kitchen table, surrounded by way of spreadsheets and financial institution statements, calculating and recalculating figures that refused to balance. The crying commenced around then. Silent tears that got here best after nighttime, when I turned into sure nobody strolling puppies may leaf through my home windows and spot the reality that the female they waved to each morning, the one who continually appeared composed and capable, became falling apart at the back of closed doors. My reflection within the toilet replicate each morning reveals the dark hollows below my eyes that concealer can't quite hide. Collarbones more reported against my blouses. When my pants commenced slipping at the waist, I punched new holes in my belt as opposed to purchase smaller sizes. Temporary scenario, transient answer. While retaining this facade, I present my domestic every night. 9 years of recollections taken care of into preserve, donate, and trash. Books that after covered complete walls now fill containers stacked in corners. The wedding pics of pals, the commencement photographs of cousins, the vacation snapshots, all bubble wrapped and nestled in boxes labeled with blue marker. Through it all, I file the whole thing. Bank statements in chronological order, house repair invoices filed by date and category, text messages screenshot and saved, a fort of paper proof against the siege of circle of relatives fiction. While packing my workplace bookshelf, I discover a framed photo I'd almost forgotten. Me, standing on the front porch of this house the day I signed the mortgage papers, keys clutched in my hand, smile threatening to break up my face. The realtor had taken it as a wonder, catching the exact moment I realized I definitely carried out it, bought a domestic absolutely by myself. I hint the frames aspect, remembering that feeling, pride without a hint of apology, accomplishment without all of us else's approval attached. I region it cautiously atop the nearest keep container, this tangible reminder of what I built and what no one can lessen. The doorbell earrings Saturday afternoon even as I'm wrapping dishes and newspaper. Through the front window, I spot my parents' Buick inside the driveway, Marissa's purple compact in the back of it. No warning textual content, no courtesy call. I recollect now not answering, however the knocking grows more insistent. When I open the door, they report in like funeral directors, solemn, judgmental, organized to control a hard state of affairs. Mom spots the boxes straight away. You're without a doubt going through with this insanity. I fold the newspaper around another plate, securing it with tape. The closing is in 3 weeks. Your sister wishes you. Mom's voice rises slightly. You've constantly been selfish. However, that is beyond expertise. Your sister wishes you. The plate in my arms remains regular, although something shifts inside me. I've spent my complete life being advised what Marissa wishes. The words emerge calmer than I experience. Did each person ever ask what I want? Dad clears his throat. Eden, be reasonable. I need economic stability. I need to sleep at night without panic assaults approximately payments. I need to no longer drain my retirement fund for residence repairs. I cannot have enough money. I retain, wrapping dishes methodically. Unlike beyond confrontations, I do not forestall what I'm doing to present them my full attention. I don't provide drinks or comfortable seats. I hold my work even as they stand awkwardly in my half-of-packed kitchen. We're your family, Mom says, voice wavering among anger and disbelief. Yes, you are. And I've in no way as soon as asked you for money. Not for college, no longer for my first rental, no longer for this residence, and now not for the maintenance that tired my savings. For once, they don't have any instant reaction. Marissa stares on the ground, not able to satisfy my eyes. Dad examines the ceiling as if architectural features have suddenly turned out to be fascinating. I understand with startling clarity that I no longer want their approval or information. The consistent ache for validation I've carried given that adolescence has quieted change through something sturdier. When I stand to attain for some other stack of plates, I note my posture has modified. Shoulders lower back, spine immediately, eyes level with theirs in preference to downcast as typical. The physical manifestation of an internal shift. Dorothy arrives that night with Thai food and 2 bottles of wine. She allows me PC photograph albums even as sharing stories of her personal sister, the only who didn't speak to her for 3 years after Dorothy refused to co-sign on my own. Family styles are the hardest to break, she says, carefully wrapping a crystal vase my grandmother left me. But once in a while, breaking them is the best manner forward. Monday brings an unexpected text from my colleague Thomas. Need assist shifting? Got a truck and strong back. Family regularly sees us least simply, just say while. That afternoon, Barbara, my economic guide, emails confirmation of my townhouse software approval. Based on your financials, this move reduces your housing expenses by means of 42%. The right choice for your lengthy time period safety. Call in case you need anything else. The evaluation moves me as I overview these messages over dinner. These humans ask what I want rather than telling me what to give. They offer particular assist as opposed to indistinct needs. That night, I unfold my monetary files throughout the eating room desk. Bank statements, repair invoices, belongings, tax tests, retirement account withdrawals, everything meticulously prepared, the entire photograph of my financial fact. Tomorrow's own family meeting may not be an intervention for me, but a reckoning with information they have got selected to ignore. My one benefit stays unstated. The income settlement consists of a 30-day rent-again clause. For a month after, I can stay in the residence at the same time as finalizing my townhouse purchase. Breathing room they don't know I even have. At precisely 7 o'clock Tuesday evening, the doorbell rings. When I open it, I discover now not simply my parents and Marissa on the porch, but Aunt Sarah, Uncle Robert, and my cousin Jennifer Status in the back of them, a circle of relatives firing squad assembled for execution. I stand at the head of my eating room table, a role that feels overseas yet right. The manila folder in my arms holds every economic assertion, each bill, every painful reminder of why I needed to sell my home. My hands now not tremble as I open it. Before all of us, says some other phrase, I need you all to peer something. My voice includes a steadiness I do not entirely apprehend. The family collecting seems larger than I predicted. My parents, Marissa, Uncle William, Aunt Sarah, and my help group, Dorothy, Barbara, and Thomas. I lay out the documents methodically, arranging them in chronological order. Bank statements, emergency, fund withdrawals, contractor invoices. Each paper tells part of the story I've saved hidden. This is the roof substitute from Ultimate Spring. I slide the $11,200 bill toward the middle in which everyone can see it. The 12-month shingles most effective lasted 22. Insurance covered nothing. Uncle William adjusts his glasses, leaning ahead with a frown that cuts deep traces throughout his forehead. Waterline restore, $8,200. Another paper joins, the primary. When the Metropolis updated the principal line, it discovered my connection turned into deteriorating. No caution, No charge plan provided. NS. My mom shifts in her seat, however remains uncharacteristically silent. Heating gadget substitute $5,000. The 1-3 principal bill completes my trinity of home ownership nightmares. The energy performance rebate included slightly a quarter of the price. I maintain direct eye touch as I speak, something I hardly ever controlled in own family confrontations earlier then. Barbara nods nearly imperceptibly from her seat near the window, encouraging me to hold. My emergency fund is gone. I place my bank announcement on Pinnacle, the balance painfully clean. My financial advisor encouraged selling while the market remains warm, as opposed to risking a pressured sale later, once I might be underwater. Marissa's chair scrapes towards the hardwood as she stands. This is creative accounting, Eden. You've constantly been excellent with numbers whilst it suits you. Her voice includes the familiar accusatory edge. You're simply seeking to keep away from your own family duties. F. Uncle William, whose judgment I've feared seeing that childhood, surprises me by turning toward my sister. Marissa, what's your cutting-edge employment state of affairs? Last I heard, you had been between jobs. The unexpected redirection leaves Marissa fumbling. I'm exploring possibilities. The activity marketplace is complex right now. My mom jumps in. William, this isn't approximately employment. Family duty exists no matter budget. Eden has always had that beautiful residence with all that more area. Speaking of area, Aunt Sarah interjects, her reading glasses perched on her nostril as she examines my heating invoice. Why cannot Marissa live with you and Roger? You have that visitor room you just redecorated. The communication shifts like a contemporary, pulling far from me and swirling around the room as circle of relatives participants begin questioning the association I've endured my complete grown-up lifestyles. Dorothy clears her throat. I've recognized this circle of relatives for 20 years. Eden offered her residence with none family economic assist. Meanwhile, I've watched Marissa get hold of assist with hire, car bills, and credit card payments, time and again. Her voice incorporates the burden of lengthy remark. The sample has been clear to everyone besides those closest to it. Barbara straightens her blazer before speaking. As Eden's monetary guide, I can let you know that enabling financial dependency in the long run harms each events. The one giving depletes their resources, even as the receiver never develops vital lifestyle skills. Thomas, sitting quietly until now, leans ahead. My brother lived with my dad and mom till he turned into 42. They paid his bills, made his appointments, solved his problems. When they exceeded, he had no idea how to feature. He misplaced their house inside of 12 months because he never discovered to manage money. He glances at my dad and mom. Sometimes the maximum loving component is to stop rescuing someone. The room falls strangely quiet as these outdoor views penetrate the own family mythology we have operated beneath for decades. Uncle William breaks the silence. Eden, why failed to you percentage those economic struggles sooner? I hesitate, the question catching me off protect. Should I keep the privateness and independence that had served as my armor for years? Or would commencing up to choose family members create the assist gadget I in no way notion possible? Before I can answer, my father shifts in his chair, eyes fixed on the hardwood ground. It's the primary time I can consider him sitting through a family dialogue without dominating it. My mom's rigid posture progressively softens, her hands now resting open at the table in preference to clenched in her lap. Marissa stands all of a sudden, grabbing her handbag. This is ridiculous. You're all performing like I'm a few type of parasite. Eden has continually been the golden baby, with her best house and perfect task, even as everybody ignores how difficult things were for me. When no person jumps to her protection, she storms in the direction of the door. The slam echoes through the residence as she leaves. Uncle William waits for the reverberations to vanish before talking again. I suppose it's time we had a family economic making plans session for all people. He looks pointedly in the direction of my dad and mom, including Marissa. My mom's eyes glisten with unshed tears. However, for once, they're no longer being weaponized, in opposition to me. My father reaches for her hand throughout the desk, his face unreadable, however, his silence speaks me volumes. For the first time in a family confrontation, I'm not the one left feeling like I've executed something incorrect. I arrange the last of my kitchen glasses right into a container, wrapping everyone in newspaper with methodical precision. My very last week into my 30-day countdown, and the residence already feels whole, reminiscences peeling away with every object packed. The doorbell rings, I test my watch proper on time. My mother and father are not anything if now not punctual, once they have an agenda. I open the door to find not simply my parents, however Marissa too, standing on my porch like a united front. My mother clutches her purse with white knuckles. My father's smile appears rehearsed. "Eat in, honey," my mom says, stepping interior, without awaiting an invitation. "We've been speak me, and we suppose we have discovered the best answer." "A compromise," my father provides, his voice carrying that fake cheerfulness he reserves for difficult conversations. Marissa follows them, in, her eyes darting around my half-of-packed living room earlier than selecting me with a practiced appearance of gratitude. "I genuinely admire you listening to us out." They set up themselves on my couch, the most effective piece of furnishings, no longer yet wrapped in moving blankets, while I remain status. The power dynamic isn't lost on me. We recognize promoting, "The house is your selection." My mom starts off-evolved, punctuating her phrases with a nervous snort. "But as opposed to Marissa moving in with you, what in case you helped her get her very own place?" My father nods enthusiastically, even as carefully, avoiding any mention of actual numbers simply by myself to get her started. "With your achievement, it'd rarely have an effect on you." "Unlike me," Marissa interjects, her voice tender and rehearsed. "Some people just have awful success, you understand? The implication hangs heavy within the air among us. You're successful. She's struggling. You owe her this." My mom leans forward, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Eden, the circle of relatives has always caught together. If you cannot help your sister just this as soon as..." She trails off. The danger. Clear. Cut Marissa off, and I reduce myself off from the circle of relatives. I stroll to the dining room table where I've laid out numerous files. They watch me, confusion changing their actuality. I'm meeting with my lender the following day. I say, "Picking up a pre-approval letter for a townhouse downtown, the month-to-month fee might be nearly 40% less than my contemporary mortgage." I hand the letter to my father, whose eyes widen on the numbers. Selling this house isn't always pretty much Marissa. It's about rebuilding my emergency savings after 3 foremost domestic repairs tired them. It's about reducing my financial stress. I take a deep breath. It's about sooner or later prioritizing my economic health. My mother begins to talk. However, I hold up my hand. I cannot help Marissa financially. I preserve. However, I can assist her support herself. I pull a business card from my pocket and maintain it out to Marissa. She stares at it without taking it. Our marketing department has an entry-level function opening subsequent week. The starting salary might cow lease on a 1-bedroom rental. I spoke to HR the previous day and they would be willing to interview you. Marissa's mouth opens, then closes. For as soon as she seems really speechless. This isn't always charity, I upload. It's an opportunity. Whether you're taking it is your desire. My father stands all at once, transferring toward the window where Bear Hooks display in which family photos as soon as hung. Eden, be affordable. Marissa desires. No, I interrupt, taking walks to the coffee table in which I've positioned a manila folder. This is what being reasonable looks like. I am C of no. I open the folder and pull out a spreadsheet, placing it at the desk among us. The itemized listing includes each financial gift my parents have given Marissa over the last 5 years. Car. Payments, rent supplements, credit card bailouts, the total at the lowest, turned around in shiny red, makes my mom gasp. I compiled this from the conversations you've had in the front of me. I suspect the actual overall is better. My father selections up the paper, his forehead creasing as he studies the numbers. This isn't always love, I say quietly. It's dependence, and it's hurting each of you. My father opens his mouth to object, then falls silent, his eyes fixed at the spreadsheet. We just desired to assist her, my mother whispers, tears welling in her eyes. The high-quality assistance is coaching a person to face on their personal, I reply, my voice consistent notwithstanding the hammering in my chest. You taught me that once, don't forget? When I wanted to stop college as it changed into too difficult? The memory hangs between us, my father refusing to allow me flow back. Domestic when calculus beaten me, insisting I find a teach rather. We're doing you no favors with the aid of making existence too easy, he'd said then. Strange how principles trade when implemented to exceptional daughters. The silence stretches, damaged only by means of the sound of packing tape from the field. I'd deserted when they arrived. Finally, My father places his arm around my mother's shoulders. We have to pass, he says quietly. They stroll to the door, my mother no longer quite assembling my eyes. Marissa hesitates, searching back at the Enterprise card nevertheless in my hand. I don't want your charity process, she says. However, there is less conviction in her voice than ordinary. I location the cardboard at the entryway desk. It's not charity, it is possibility. She turns away, however, as she follows my parents out. I sees her slip the card into her purse while she thinks I'm now not searching. The door closes in the back of them. I stand in my half-empty residing room, taking note of their automobile start and shrink back. The silence feels exceptional now, not hollow, however open, expansive. I sink onto the couch, walking my hand over the familiar material. Tomorrow it is going into storage until I pass into the townhouse. 9 years of reminiscences on this residence, and now an uncertain future lies beforehand. I feel both liberated and isolated, victorious and alone. The circle of relatives' dinner subsequent month looms in my thoughts. Will they even nonetheless need me there? Has this confrontation completely altered our relationships? The answering device light blinks with 3 new messages, possibly greater. Household calling to weigh in. I forget about it, focusing rather on the business card Marissa took. One small step, possibly the first of many. I stand inside the center of my downtown loft, savoring the gap around me. Sunlight streams through the windows, warming the hardwood floors beneath my naked eft. 3 months ago, this region felt foreign, a compromise rather than a desire. Now it feels just like the domestic I never knew I needed. Another container checked. Off the budget, I tell myself, updating my financial tracking app. My loan fee seems inexperienced, a complete 30%, much less than what I paid for the Craftsman. Barbara's weekly take a look at ins have transformed what was as soon as my best source of anxiety right into an established ritual I really stay up for. The kitchen island holds my most up-to-date purchase, an expert-grade digital camera that could have remained a far-off wish in my antique financial fact. My first images class starts day after today night, the course catalog still open on my pill. I run my palms over the Digicom's textured grip, permission to create in place of just continue to exist. My smartphone buzzes with a reminder, Sunday dinner at my parents'. I sense the familiar tightening in my shoulders, then consciously release it. These dinners have changed, just as I actually have. Later, I step through my mother and father the front door, carrying a bottle of wine as opposed to my normal anxiety headache. Dad greets me with a hug that feels real rather than perfunctory. Eden, come see what your sister introduced. He says, his voice wearing none of the comparative undertones that when crammed our interactions. In the eating room, Marissa arranges flowers in an easy vase. She appears up, her smile attaining her eyes. They gave me my first Enterprise cards these days, she says, pulling one from her pocket. Assistant Advertising and Marketing Coordinator sounds fancy for someone who more often than not makes espresso runs. However, I'm learning a lot. She fingers me the cardboard proudly, without the defensive aspect that when colored her accomplishments. My mother appears within the doorway, sporting a casserole that is not positioned strategically toward Marissa's place setting. Tell us greater about the social media marketing campaign you stated closing week, Mom says, searching at once at Marissa. Then she turns to me, and Eden, how turned into your photography class? I blink, still adjusting to the newness of balanced interest. As we eat, I note my father asking thoughtful questions of each daughter's, not just fawning over Marissa's each phrase. 1 week later, laughter fills my loft as Dorothy increases her glass. To houses that refuge us and obstacles that shield us, she toasts. Around my espresso table, sit down